She's actually quite pretty.
Yeah, she's beautiful. And
Yeah.
so basically, so a cigarette butt was found. So all kinds of things, you know. The poor dog had been mistreated.
The dog.
Yeah, a cigarette butt was found in the basement on the window, so it did not match her brand. And based on the physical abuse Heidi, that's her dog, had endured, her private investigator concluded that Cindy could have never done that to her dog. She'd never have done that if she was the Cindy I knew. And so we all know we love our dogs. Like, you would never hurt your dog. And so over the next several weeks, further calls are received, one of which Caban, the investigator, answered at her home while she was at work. A dead cat was found lying in the stairwell of her house. And then Cindy did tell him that two men had arrived at her front door posing as police officers, but fled when she radioed Caban. So they had some walkie-talkies where she could call up to her private investigator when she needed him.
You know what? I'm looking at while you're talking some of this on her. There are still people today that think that she made all this up.
Yeah, exactly, right? I know. I think maybe after this we should watch the Unsolved Mysteries episode.
Yeah.
And so more obscene phone calls, more nasty things happening, more dead animals, all kinds of things. Cindy's mom, you asked where the family were. Her mom spent the night at her house. This is in 1984 now. And in the middle of the night, the mom woke to the dog barking and found Cindy checking windows and doors. Moments later, they both heard the doorbell ring and discovered a window near the front porch was cracked in several areas. 2 weeks later, Cindy claimed she was attacked by an assailant in the nearby Dunbar Park while walking her dog at approximately 8:30 p.m. By her recollection, she was assailed by a bearded man driving a green van with a female passenger. Several hours later, around midnight, she was found dazed and attempting to enter the home of a neighbor and had a dark grey nylon stocking around her neck. Her dog Heidi, was found by her private investigator wandering around in the park.
That
would be my dog. My dog would be like, yeah, Mom, I'm off to the park.
Yeah.
And so she was taken to the hospital. Doctors observed 2 puncture marks in her arm. While Cindy was being treated, the hospital receptionist told authorities a man with an accent had called the front desk inquiring about the hospital's security policies. When police played audio of Makepeace's voice, that's her husband, the receptionist felt there was a strong possibility that it was the same person. And so he's from South Africa. That is a very distinct accent. And so this is just a weird throwing out there. In October 1984, while under the care of a hypnotherapist, Cindy recounted a repressed memory of witnessing a double murder, but did not divulge further details. So by 1987, Cindy was working at Richmond General Hospital. In August of that year, a home alarm was triggered after a back window was broken, and 3 days later, she reported to police that her front porch lights had been loosened. The following week, she reported that someone used a glass cutter to create a hole in the basement window. So this is insane. From 1982, right? Now we're in 1987.
I would have moved to a different country or something.
Oh, I would be living, no one would even know where I was living. This is this amount of harassment, but it's not even the harassment, it's the physical injuries that she's having, right? If someone was just, I'm not saying just because it would be absolutely awful, but if someone was calling you up on the phone and hanging up, or if you had letters on your car, which would be absolutely terrifying, that's one thing. But to be choked, to be unconscious, to have dead animals, that's taking things to a whole different level.
Have you ever been stalked before? No, I haven't really either. But I've heard from, well, this is more than stalking, this is harassing, but I've read about people that have been stalked and harassed. It's like your life is over.
You would be absolutely terrified because there's too many unhinged people. And to not know what another person's capable of. We're doing these true crime podcasts. And so we know what people are capable of. We read about it. It's entertainment, you know, because we read these stories and we're aghast at the fact that people can do this to each other. But imagine, and they're just ordinary people. There's nothing special. There's nothing particular about these people it's happening to.
You're exactly right. I have one of our co-hosts who's an expert in serial killers. We were doing one on, was it Jack the Ripper? No. It was the Green River Killer. And, you know, he killed 48 people. And I asked her, was there anything about him, you know, that we can learn to look out for? She said, absolutely nothing. He worked for the same company for 30 years. He had kids.
Yep.
He was in the community. I think he went to church or something. Like, he was a regular dude as far as...
Well, did you see in the news today that they caught the Long Island killer?
Did they really?
Yep. And he's murdered at least 10 women. And he's a architect in New York. He's married. He's got 2 kids. It's like headline news all over the place. That just happened today. And that's been a huge... he's a serial killer, you know, that he's been... They're showing pictures of his Tinder profile, you know, and all these awful Google searches he did for terrible things. And so I'm sure to everybody on the outside, he was just a normal family guy.
It is. Yeah, you wonder, you know, are they mentally ill? Are they possessed? Are they just born bad?
There's something, I don't know. There's something about someone who's capable of doing that. There's just some wiring that got totally missed. Like,
speaking of killers, I don't know if you saw this in the news, Rebecca, but they just released Leslie.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
The Manson girls.
Yeah. And
boy, I know Sharon Tate, her sister, or somebody, even though she wasn't involved in that case, she was in the second night. There's a lot of mad people.
Well, that's so controversial because that's all about rehabilitation. So how long is that punished? Like, how can she be rehabilitated? She was 19 or 18 when she went to prison, and now she's an old lady. Like, she's probably a different person now. Like, I'm very kind of mixed about this. I was kind of a bit mad that she got released considering everything that she did, to be honest with you. But at the same time, I wanted to hold my own judgment as well and ask myself, okay, well, what's right? What would be the right thing to do for her? You know?
And you also, if you add in the brainwashing aspect of it, and, you know, that's a whole other episode that we did, but on Charlie Manson. But I know that the Trisha Phelps, who did the case, she actually believes that Leslie was in a different category than the others. So we're going to actually do a whole episode on that. So
that's going to
maybe you and I can actually be on and listen to Trisha do that one. All right, continue on with Miss Jane.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of wrap it up a bit. Needless to say, things very much don't go very well for poor old Cindy. Continuing on, she's working as a nurse. There's much more harassment and weird phone calls and notes and all kinds of things. So the husband is saying, this is in 1988, the husband says he received 2 strange voice messages on his home answering phone, and they said, Cindy, dead meat soon, while the other stated, more smack, more downers, another grand, and we waste the word. No more deal. He gave the answering tapes to his attorney as he distrusted the Vancouver police, whom he felt might target him as a suspect. Fair enough, to be honest with you. 15 days later, Cindy was found unconscious in her garage. She had been hogtied, was nude from the waist down, and again had black nylon stocking tied around her neck. Around this time, the police hired a mountain climber, a knot expert, to analyze the knots on the stockings, and she had frequently been found bound with. At the time, she concluded that it was highly unlikely that Cindy would have been able to secure such knots herself. So basically, they're really trying to find out if can she do this to her. And then in 1989, a life insurance salesman from whom Cindy had purchased a policy moved into her basement of her residence. She offered him the rental on the basis that she would feel safe with someone else living with her. And then a security guard at the hospital where she was employed discovered a note on the premises with, again, cut and paste out of a magazine, which read, "Soon, Cindy." The phrase "sleep well" was also found written in dew on her windshield. Following a reported break in her home on April 29th, the police used scent hounds to attempt to track the alleged intruder, but the dogs found no trail. And then on May 10th, scent hounds were again utilized following another alleged break-in and were unable to track the scent of an unknown individual that led to the back fence. Over the course of the 7 years that Cindy reported various incidents, the police spent an estimated $1 to $1.5 million Canadian dollars. So we can say what we want about them not taking it seriously, but clearly they're doing some investigating. And it says they spent between 1.5 million of resources in investigating her claims, but no evidence could be located to corroborate them. Because of this, authorities suspected that Cindy was inventing these incidents and staging them to appear as though she were the victim of a violent stalker. Cindy expressed frustration with the police department, aside from one detective, and in a complaint she filed against the police for her perceived dismissal, she positively singled out Anderson. This is the one guy that she thinks helped her, for his patience, unfailing professional conduct, and his exemplary investigation of this case. Okay, now we're going to get down to the day in question. At 4 p.m. on May 25th, 1989, Cindy picked up her paycheck from Richmond General Hospital. She spoke to a co-worker who reported that she seemed in good spirits. Cindy informed her she had not experienced any suspicious activity for at least 2 weeks. Cindy was last seen several hours later purchasing groceries at Safeway, visiting a bank of Montreal at a shopping centre, and she deposited her paycheck approximately 8 p.m. The same day, Cindy was scheduled to have an infrared detection system installed at her home for security purposes and had planned for her friends Agnes and Tom to play bridge and spend the night. After not hearing from Cindy, her friends visited her home at approximately 10 p.m. and found the house locked and her car wasn't there. They spoke briefly to the lodger who was in the basement, who informed them she mentioned she was going to do some shopping. So the friends drove to the shopping centre and found her car there. They proceeded to drive around and eventually reported Cindy as a missing person. And so the police went out to investigate. Based on her extensive history, they wanted to make sure she was all right. Upon examination of the vehicle, blood was located inside the car on the driver's side, as well as groceries, a wrapped-up birthday gift for her friend's son. Contents of her wallet were found underneath the vehicle. A subsequent inspection of her home showed nothing had been disturbed. Everything was fine, orderly, clean, well tended. I like how it says well tended houseplants, and so we know that she took care of the houseplants. That's a solid woman right there. Okay, so several days after she was reported missing, her tenant informed police had received a call at his office from a man claiming to be her father, inquiring about her life insurance. So now her dad's coming back into it.
Okay.
Right? And so they told the dad, you would need to visit the office as it cannot be relayed over the phone. But when authorities questioned the dad, he said he never made that phone call. Another mystery. Okay, so June 8th, 1989, a municipal paving worker discovered Cindy's body in the backyard of an abandoned house at Blundell Road. Her body was hog-tied with a rope in a fetal position, and a black nylon stocking was bound around her neck. So this is such a theme, right? The stocking, every single time that anything happened to her. Her right leg lay beneath a bramble of blackberry bushes. Her coat was found lying near her body. The property where her remains were found was situated along a busy street near an intersection, which had frequent traffic from pedestrians. On the resident's exterior fuel tank, police found graffiti in orange spray paint reading, "Some bitch died here." Am I allowed to say the B word? Mm-hmm. A line spray painted along the ground with the same orange paint ran from the fuel tank to the spot where her body lay, encircling it. So weird. Everything is so weird about this.
It's almost like she's being tormented by demons or something.
Yeah, right. And so a pathologist who examined her body at the scene noticed her hands had been bound so tight one finger had scratched down to the bone. Ugh. A pinprick consistent with a hypodermic syringe was located on the inner right elbow of the body. And then based on decomposition, they think that she must have been there around June 2nd. So probably the day that she went missing, which was actually May 25th. So who knows? An autopsy determined she died of multiple drug intoxication. So something else, substantial amounts of morphine, diazepam, flurazepam. Her blood toxicology report showed that she had 10 times the lethal doses of morphine in her bloodstream.
What?
Yep. They found that she'd ingested approximately 30 milligram tablets of flurazepam. That's probably like a Valium.
Yeah, Xanax.
Yeah. And it said it baffled the pharmacologist who analysed the toxicology report. Traces of morphine in her stomach. And they could have been from intravenous injection, but obviously she's ingested some stuff. But the thing with this is she would have been rendered unconscious within mere minutes based on the dose. Within mere minutes, and would have died within several hours. And so how could you have tied yourself up with all of that stuff in your body, right? And so the police suspected Cindy's cause of death was likely a suicide or accident. Right? I know, right? Based on the assumption she had fabricated her numerous prior claims of assaults and stalking. This was quickly reported on several local tabloid news outlets. Her personal private investigator visited the morgue to examine her body and observed her remains exhibited lividity, the setting of the blood on the left-hand side. Just let me see if this is important. Because her body had been found lying on the right-hand side, he felt that she had died somewhere else and her body was relocated to that site. There was a memorial service, and her ex-husband did not attend, and then the abandoned house, the house was demolished. So this is the conclusion. An extensive inquest into her death was undertaken, which consisted of 5 jurors. So I don't think we do this in America, but they do this in Australia, and it sounds like Canada, where you can have an inquest into someone's death and you can kind of take a jury vote on what you think happened. It went on and on. It was originally scheduled to go for 3 weeks, but another 21 days were added. All of the evidence was presented, the phone messages, the husband came and made accusations against her family, saying that her father had physically abused her brothers had molested her, and he's accused the cops of trying to frame him for doing it as well. It was also revealed that shortly after her death, Cindy's parents uncovered a hoard of various medications in her home, including sedatives and antipsychotic drugs prescribed by her psychiatrists, which they disposed of by flushing down the toilet. So, they're trying to protect her, and maybe they're not doing the right thing by hiding evidence, but you can see as parents, you want to preserve your child's memory. And then it said her younger sister, Melanie, found a glass cutter in Cindy's purse along with a medical syringe, a urinary catheter, and saline solution in her bedroom. She's probably just pinching things from the hospital, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. And so the conclusion at the end of all this is that unable to determine the cause of death.
Oh my God. You know what? Out of all the stories we've done so far, I think this one might be the most interesting.
Isn't this crazy? The inquest concluded May 25th, 1990. So 1982 is when we started, when the first harassment started. So 8 years later now, we're having an inquest into her death. It said after deliberations, the jury was unable to determine whether her cause of death was suicide, homicide, or accidental. It was ultimately ruled that Cindy had died of an unknown event, and the case was formally closed. I've heard podcasts about this and all of this crazy stuff that happened to her, and then at the end, when they say, well, especially the police wanted to call it a suicide at first. Or an accident. That's no accident.
You know what? It reminded me a little bit of Marilyn Monroe, not the torture part, but how they said that hers was an accidental suicide, or whatever, and they found all that medication in her body, but yet she was laying in such a way that didn't make sense for somebody that would have died that way.
Yeah.
I want to do like a whole Marilyn week where we
Oh,
go through the whole.
that
I
would be
find
good.
her whole life is so interesting. Oh my goodness, that was a
So
lot.
what do you think? What do you think happened to poor old Cindy?
I'm having a hard time with this one. I mean, she either had some really evil dude that just tortured her or woman her whole life, or she was completely mentally insane and was doing these things to herself for attention.
Yep.
Which, but what do you think?
I feel like we need more information.
Yeah, I'm gonna step later. I've got to record some steps for our video here, but I'm gonna step later, and I'll put one on. Now you got me. I mean, this is wow.
Why don't you watch the original?
The Unsolved Mysteries.
It's from 1991. I might watch it too. You know what? I might watch it too, and we can do when we do our next steps to stories.
What do you think? What do you think?
I don't know because this is what I would do: break down the evidence, right? So other people have seen and heard things as well. So her mom did, her co-workers did, her husband did, the private detective did, and so that's the part that makes me feel like she's not making it up and that she's not crazy, because other people also like took the phone calls, saw the notes, and all that kind of thing. The fact that makes me feel like it's not a perpetrator is the fact that the police couldn't. $1 million, you would think you could find some solid evidence of who was doing that.
Did they preserve any DNA or?
Well, the problem is there wasn't really DNA back then.
Yeah, but now if they saved some, maybe.
Because there was that cigarette butt, remember, in the basement.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, this would be a good cold case to open up for someone and do a deep dive with all the latest stuff. It depends what they've preserved, right, for evidence. But I don't know. I'm right in the middle.
I feel terrible because if this was done to her on purpose, she hadn't even been able to be laid to rest properly.
Yeah.
Because people suspect.
There's a lot more. I had to basically cut out 2 pages of horrible things that happened to Cindy. So let's all watch the
I'll step because sometimes when I step to something, it depends on the copyright. Okay. So they might mute me. So I'm gonna try to find one that's just YouTube, that I can step to. But hey guys, just on a side note, if you haven't joined Just Lean In, Rebecca, tell them about Just Lean In.
Just Lean In is a fabulous program for health and wellness. I think the best part is that you get your own personal coach. I'm meeting one of my clients. We're going for coffee tomorrow. Never met her before. She lives in Arizona. She's coming to Oregon to visit family. I live in Portland, Oregon. And she said to me, I'd love to meet you because obviously, we do a lot of things. We do all of our communications online. So we're going to meet tomorrow in person and we're going to go and hike. We're going to go for coffee. So basically, we're going to give you a new friend who's going to help you, hold you accountable, give you tons and tons of information. Apart from having your own personal coach, you're going to get meal plans, you're going to get workout videos, you're going to get support groups, you're going to get tons and tons of information. You are going to get someone who's there for you when you struggle. You're going to get someone there for you when you're successful to tell you you're doing so great and be your best cheerleader that you could ask for. And so if you want to make any health changes, not every single client that I get actually wants to lose weight. Some people want to work on their strength. They want to just change their eating habits. They want to work on their inflammation in their body. They want to just make healthy habits to move forward and preserve the health that they've got. And so wherever you're at in your health journey, we can meet you where you're at and we'll take it from there.
Yes. And if you want information on, because Just Lean In sponsors our Step to Stories program. And if you want more information, just hit the link below. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and come to our free Facebook group and get in contact with us and get ready because we will be bringing you a new story soon to get your steps in. I hope you guys have a fabulous day. Thank you, everybody. And don't forget to just lean in.
Just lean in, everybody. Bye.
Perfect.